Hello and welcome to our analysis of iCAT20. iCAT20 really brings you down to the countdown of the last 5-6 mocks left in our All India National Level CAT test series. So, the first 19 mocks that you would have taken would have exposed you to a lot of different styles of questions with varying difficulty levels across sections. Now, the tests might start getting tougher, or you might see more combinations of sectional difficulty to help you acclimatize for any combination that CAT throws at you. What was the level of iCAT20? iCAT20 is classified as a moderately difficult mock with an average LOD of 1.97, that's close to 2. What does that mean? As I've said all along, we have LODs or difficulty levels assigned to each question ranging from 1 to 3 for easy to more difficult. So each question, section and test has an average difficulty level. In that sense, this was a moderate mock, neither tough nor difficult. Before we go into number of good attempts, we need to look at each section in detail and then decide what should be the number of good attempts. Let's start with the verbal section first. As always, it had the same breakup, 6 RCs, 2 of 6 questions, 4 of 3 questions. What was the difficulty level? Here the difficulty level was more than the exam itself, so it was 2.03. Technically, while this is called a moderate section, I would say that this difficulty level is probably 5 to 7% more than what you would expect in the actual exam. So this was marginally tougher than the actual exam. Your number of attempts would also go down correspondingly. What should have been your attempt strategy for this paper? If you see the 6 RCs, here you had a mix, or as I keep saying, you had a bell curve of difficulty levels. It starts from easy to tough. In this particular case, there were 2 RCs which were classified as easy to moderate, 2 which were classified as purely moderate, and 2 which were classified as moderate to tough. So it was a uniformly distributed RC section, but you needed to select the right RCs. Let's also look at the kind of topics that you had in this RC section. In the past few mocks, we have had a lot of arts related topics. Here there was a mix, plus there was a lot of personality based topics here. If you look at the topics here, you had one on a lady called Nina Alexander, one on a famous psychologist called Sigmund Freud, one on Che Guevara. Anybody who has read about communism would know about him. So there were at least 3 topics which were based strictly on personalities. As such, they make for good reading. Then there was one on American elections, one on languages of North America, and then one on women's rights. So there was a lot of Euro and Western world centric outlook in this particular verbal section. Please do not be surprised this might happen. You might have an RC section which looks purely at Indian topics or Asian topics, or concentrates on one kind of area. So if you look at these topics, a lot of your comfort level would determine which RCs to attempt and which to reject. In terms of pure difficulty level, I would say that the one on Che Guevara was very factual. This should definitely have been attempted. The one on women's right was again something which could have been done. These 2 would have contributed somewhere around 6 questions. The one on American elections again was a doable RC, but was a 3 question RC, so you had a lot of doable RCs in the 3 question sets. The 2 longer 6 question RCs were the ones on Sigmund Freud and the languages of North America. So the one on languages was actually tough enough, but Sigmund Freud would have been tougher because of the area or psychoanalysis, which a lot of people find tough. If you have read Freud, it would have been an easy topic. In general, I would say that anywhere close to 12 questions would have been a good attempt as far as the RCs were concerned. Let's move to the non-RCs and analyze these. As always, we had a combination of jumbled sentences, contextual odd man out questions and para-summary. Contrary to what we typically see in the exam, Here the contextual odd man out sentences were slightly simpler compared to the other two, and the para summaries was moderate enough. The jumbled sentences were actually the toughest of the lot. So here if you selected questions smartly, you could have easily attempted 4 questions very seriously. Now we typically tell students to attempt all 10 questions, but the number of genuine serious attempts here would have been 3 to 4. So to summarize this section, it was a moderate or slightly above moderate section. 12 attempts in the RCs and 4 in the non-RCs would be a good performance. 16 attempts would be reasonably good as far as this section goes. Now let's look at the next section, that's DILR, typically the toughest section in the exam. Here in terms of pure numbers it was slightly tougher than verbal, but in terms of the comparison with the actual exam it was easier compared to what you would face. The average LOD here was nearly 2.1, where what you will face in the exam is around 2.2 or 2.25. As always, I tell people try and attempt 4 to 5 sets, where 4 is the bare minimum. Now here, because it was simpler than expected, 4 should have been attempted. So right away, before identifying the sets, I would say 16 attempts would have been a good attempt, but you should have tried and taken it to 18. Which were the sets that you should have attempted? So the first set that you could have done was on 8 friends and the fruits that they have. This is something that should definitely have been done by you. A relatively easy set. Then there was a table on teaching and non-teaching staff, which was a missing table. You could have again taken this set and attempted it. There was a percentage bar graph on on beverages. This could have been solved. And one on multiple tables where you had employees at different levels. So here the DI part really of the DILR section was more doable compared to the LR part. And in terms of pure preparation, if you are equally balanced at DI and LR, then these 16 questions should have been your confirmed attempts. However, let's say you are not very good at DI, then what should you have done? How would you have gone about it? There were 2 other sets where solving the full set would have given you full marks, but they would have each taken 15 to 20 minutes. So there was one set on timings of TV shows for 5-6 people, a pure matrix kind of set but with a lot of data. So had you solved the set, full marks guaranteed, but lose 20 minutes. So that was a call that you had to take based on your comfort level with the other sets. Similarly, there was a set on tennis players on 4 different courts, again grouping and combinations etc. But if you got the final table right, full marks. So these 2 could have been your backup sets in the scenario that you were unable to solve some of or understand some of the other sets, but you now wanted marks. Then these 2 would have come to your help. In general, you could have got 16 to 17 good attempts in this. 16 would have been the bare minimum. Finally, let's move on to the verbal section. To the quant section, my bad. Easiest in the exam as well as in this mock. Here the average difficulty was more or less at par with CAT at 1.8. Now we tell people try and find the easy or doable questions, which are generally 10 to 12 out of 34. So try and find them first. Here when we identified those questions, we were able to come up with 11 questions. Now there is often also a grouping of these easy questions in the exam. Here when you are 11, you won't get very strong groups, but we were still able to identify that the first 4-5 questions from 67 to 71 had a few easy ones. Then from 86 to 96, that whole batch of 10 questions again had 4 or 5 easy questions. So those were the areas where you could find the easy questions, whereas the rest of the mock had a lot of difficult questions. If I look at the breakup in terms of the topics, I will see that out of these 11, I can easily identify 5 which are from arithmetic. So here the good part for you was that close to half of the easy questions were from arithmetic itself. So that is something which is a big benefit as far as you are concerned. Similarly, from geometry you had 2, modern math you had 2 and algebra you had 2. So that way the other sections or the other topics had a uniform breakup. But good focus on arithmetic would actually help you score a lot of marks in this particular mock. This again goes on to underline not to have a one weak section in quant. Try and be reasonably good at all these areas. On the whole, a moderately difficult paper with anywhere close to 16 good attempts or 15 good attempts in verbal, 16 in DILR and 15 in quant. I would say on the whole 45 to 47 attempts would be a good performance as far as this paper is concerned. Wish you all the very best for CAT. Now that we move on to the last 5 mocks, please put in more efforts and more strategy in terms of your preparation. You can subscribe to our channel to get access to more videos. Wish you all the best and do well. Thank you.